Hello and welcome to Adam About. In this video I'm going to be talking about how to save money with your hot tub by using less electricity. More importantly, I'm going to be talking about the exact temperature you should be keeping your hot tub at when it's not in use. Welcome to this special edition of Adam About. I've currently not got the hot tub set up, and in fact I'm not even at the house where I got the hot tub. I'm staying in an apartment in Royal William Yard in Plymouth, and I've got no access to my tub whatsoever. However, for this video I don't need the tub. I'm going to talk about electricity and how you're going to be able to save money by using your hot tub in the right way. There is a common argument that you should keep your hot tub permanently turned on, as that way it uses less electricity than letting it cool all the way down and heat up from scratch. Now, there's a partial truth to that, but it's not completely true. In reality, your hot tub will constantly be losing heat. So if you keep it on all the time and warm all the time, but don't use it very often, you'll actually use much more electricity than if you turn it off when not in use, then reheat it up when you need it. Now, to get the full picture here, we're actually talking about some complicated thermodynamics, and I'm not going to get into the maths and calculations that you would need to do to work that out. What I am going to do is talk about some principles that you can easily apply to how you use your hot tub that will save you money. There are lots of factors that influence how much electricity your hot tub uses. Some of them are very easy to control, for instance how hot you keep the water in the hot tub. Others are a little bit more challenging, for instance whereabout you site your hot tub and how much insulation the hot tub's got on it. Others are completely beyond your control. What's the air temperature outside and how windy it is. I'm going to go through the things that you can control to make sure you use less electricity. One of the biggest factors in how much electricity you will use in your hot tub is how well insulated the hot tub is. That affects how quickly the heat is lost from the water. There are a couple of very easy things you can do to make sure that your hot tub is well insulated. Firstly, make sure you've got some of the pads underneath your hot tub. I fitted some of mine when I first installed the hot tub, and it's a good idea to have something additional to the one that comes with the hot tub. Secondly, it's quite easy to cut a piece of foam the same size as your lid just to float on top of the water, and that will stop the heat rising out of the water quite so quickly. If you want to go to the next level, the best thing to do is to buy some foil insulation from a DIY store. This can be wrapped around the walls of the hot tub and make quite a significant impact in how quickly the water cools down. If you've got a circular hot tub, it's very easy to apply. If it's square, it's going to take you a little bit longer, but it's worthwhile persevering with. If you really want to go the whole 9 yards, I would also consider fashioning a lid out of the foil insulation to completely encapsulate the hot tub. Another important point is how much wind chill your hot tub is exposed to. When you're first setting up your hot tub, it's worthwhile considering where are the windy and less windy areas in your garden. If you can place the hot tub in a sheltered location, the water inside the hot tub will cool down a lot slower. Also, if you have any covers like a gazebo or fences around your hot tub, that will have a large effect as well. Anything that can be done to slightly cover the hot tub or reduce the wind factor is going to make a bit of a difference. It's also worthwhile considering if the weather drops really cold, don't use your hot tub. During periods of cold evenings and when it's cold outside at night, it's perhaps worthwhile turning your hot tub off rather than keeping it on, because it's not fighting against the weather in that way. If you mainly use your hot tub in summer, that's less of a problem. Before I go on to talk about how to use less electricity, it's not that surprising that another way you can save money on energy with your hot tub is actually buying electricity in a cheaper way, or getting your electricity from a cheaper source. A normal Lazy Spa hot tub has a 2 kilowatt heater. That means it uses 2 kilowatts per hour when it's heating up. Typically, a hot tub will take 15 hours to raise the temperature from an air temperature or water temperature of around about 15 degrees centigrade up to the full temperature of about 40 degrees. That means that it's going to be using 30 kilowatt hours of electricity during the time you're heating the water up from cold. Typically in the UK, A kilowatt hour of electricity costs around 20 pence. That means if you're heating your hot tub up all the way from cold, you're going to be using about £5 or £6 worth of electricity just to heat it up that one time. Because of that, it's quite worthwhile talking to your energy supplier. You're probably going to be using more electricity if you're going to be using the hot tub a lot. And if you explain this to them, they can check that you're on the right tariff to make sure you're getting each unit of electricity at the best price. If you're a low user of electricity, what sometimes happens is they put a low standing charge on and a higher charge per cost of unit of electricity. Potentially, once you've got yourself a hot tub, you need to be looking at the opposite of that, going for something with a slightly higher standing charge, but each unit of electricity will cost you less. If you discuss this with your energy supplier, they'll be able to help you out. If you have a smart meter fitted on your electricity supply, the conversation with the energy provider is going to be a lot easier because you're going to be able to talk about exactly how much electricity you're consuming once you've had the hot tub running for a week or two. Another consideration is economy 7. That's quite popular in the UK, where you get cheaper electricity at night. This typically runs from 11 or 12 at night till 6 or 7 in the morning. If you have economy 7, it's worthwhile considering leaving your hot tub on at night, using the cheap electricity then to get the hot tub as warm as you can, and then using less electricity during the daytime when it costs you more. I wouldn't necessarily recommend switching from a standard electricity plan to economy 7 just for the sake of your hot tub, but it does make sense if you're on that plan to make use of it. If you have solar panels, then the opposite is true. Where I have the hot tub set up, I've got a significant number of solar panels on the roof. Because of this, I never heat the hot tub at night. I always heat it up during the day, ideally when it's sunny, and the electricity costs me very little indeed. So if you've got solar panels, I would definitely just consider keeping it on during the daytime when there's lots of light, and always turn it off at night when it's going to cost you more. If you've got your hot tub suitably insulated, placed in the right area of your garden, and you're making sure that you're getting the energy as cheaply as you possibly can, the final point to consider is what temperature should you be keeping the hot tub at when it's not in use. To help understand the principles involved of keeping the hot tub on all the time or turning it off after use, I think we have to consider a couple of extreme examples. So let's take a first scenario where you always turn the hot tub off after you've used it. This means that between uses the hot tub isn't using any electricity at all. But when you need to use it again, you're probably going to have to heat the water up from around about 15 degrees C all the way up to 40 degrees C. That means it's going to take 15 hours of the heater being on. The heater uses about 2 kilowatt hours of electricity per hour, so that's going to use in total about 30 kilowatt hours of electricity. In the second scenario, imagine that you're keeping the hot tub on constantly. That means keeping it at 40 degrees C. What will happen over time is the water in the hot tub will cool. So when it drops down to about 38 degrees C, the heater in the pump will kick in, and then it will raise the temperature up from 38 back up to 40. That will normally take about an hour, so that will use 2 kilowatt hours of electricity. Now, by my estimations, I think it's going to do that cycle 4 to 6 times per day, dependent on how well insulated your hot tub is. So that means it's going to be using between 8 and 12 kilowatt hours per day just to keep going through that cycle to keep it warm. Now, if we take an average of that and say it's going to be using 10 kilowatt hours per day, that means that once you've had that hot tub on for 3 days, it will have used the same amount of electricity as letting it cool down completely and warming up from scratch. So that tells you that if you're not planning on using your hot tub for 3 days or more, you will use less electricity turning it off and reheating it than keeping it on all the time. So let's just run through that in a couple of different scenarios. The recommendations I would make for the exact temperature you need to use really depend on how often you're going to be using the hot tub. So if you're going to be using the hot tub several times a day, i.e. someone's going to be using it perhaps in the morning, maybe someone else in the afternoon, maybe someone else in the evening, but if it's more than one time during the day, say one in the morning, one in the evening, then you may as well keep your hot tub on 40 degrees or whatever temperature you have it at all the time. Because if you let it cool and you reheat it up, you'll probably use more electricity. If you find that you use your hot tub more like once a day, especially if that's in the afternoon or evening, I'd suggest that you lower the temperature in the hot tub after you've finished using it. Lower it down to about 35 degrees during the night, and then in the morning knock it back up to 38 or 40 degrees or whatever temperature you have it at, and it will be warm again for the time you need it in the afternoon or evening. If you find you'll use your hot tub once every 2 to 3 days, I would recommend turning the hot tub down to about 25 degrees C between uses. If you do this, the hot tub water will cool down a lot, it will be closer to the ambient temperature around it, and that means it will use less energy to keep it topped up at that temperature. When you then want to use the hot tub, you're only about 15 degrees off full temperature, meaning it will take about 7 or 8 hours to warm up. This means you can turn it on in the morning, and by the afternoon or evening it will be at full temperature ready for use. Finally, if you're one of those people who doesn't use the hot tub that often, say you only use it once or twice a week, and you know that there's going to be 3 or 4 days between when you've used it and when you're next going to be using it, or any time longer than that, I would recommend turning the hot tub off between uses. There's no point in keeping the water at temperature. You're still going to be using a lot of electricity even if you just keep it at 25 degrees. You may as well just turn it off, use no electricity whatsoever, and then turn it back on when you need it. Because it's going to take about 15 hours to get all the way back up to temperature, I recommend you turn it back on the day before you want to use it, and that way it'll be nice and warm by the time you want to get in. So I think that answers the question. The reality is, what temperature should you be keeping your hot tub at completely depends on how often you're going to be using it, and varies between if you're using it several times a day or if you're only using it once or twice a week. So to summarise, there are 4 things you can do to save money on your energy bill. Number 1, make sure the hot tub water cools down slowly. You achieve this by insulating it as well as you can. Secondly, you position your hot tub in a sheltered position in the garden so the wind chill factor doesn't lower the temperature of the water either. Thirdly, make sure you're using energy at the cheapest possible rate you can obtain it. And finally, make sure that you set the hot tub temperature at the right temperature depending on how often you intend using the hot tub. If you do all of these 4 things, then you'll use less electricity and that will save you money. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, it would really help this channel if you could click the like button and consider subscribing. If you've got any questions about this video or any particular input on how you save energy with your hot tub, please mention it in the comments below and I'll get back to you. Thank you very much for watching.